Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started here just a second. We're going to give people an opportunity to come on in, and so we'll get started pretty quick. Got a lot to cover today. A couple of new things, and I want to do a little experiment on the way that I teach today. You just let me know whether you like it or not. All right. Let me adjust the camera. All right. Let I'm going to open up my chat box on my iPad here just to make sure that y'all are hearing me. And that I am not talking to myself because I commonly do that, not on purpose, but let's see, where does it say chat? There we go, chat box. So everybody can just say hello. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, that'd be great. So I can, yeah, okay, great. All right, all right. Well, we're gonna have a good time today. I want you to kind of bear with me because I'm gonna do a little experiment. I'm gonna show you two videos. And one of my nurses came to me and says, "Listen, Doc, it's amazing the number of times I looked at some of your stuff, and every time I kind of learn something new. So you do have to repeat this stuff." So I'm going to do an experiment today where I'm going to give you two videos saying the same thing but in two different ways, and see how well you do. But in order to assess that, I'm going to have to test you. So first of all, I'm going to give you a little quiz after I get started. I'm going to give you a little quiz just to kind of preempt you as to what it is that we're going to be talking about. And obviously, we're going to be talking about healthy living, healthy lifestyles, which includes people who want to lose weight, which it also includes people who don't necessarily want to lose weight, but who want to get healthier through certain changes metabolically. That's what it's all about. Okay. We're going to talk about what foods we're putting into our mouths that's blocking that. And we want to talk about the foods that we want to prioritize because if we start putting the other foods in our mouths first, then we're not going to prioritize the foods that we need. Okay. All right. Let me let a few other people in, but I'm going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to go too much longer than an hour because I know it's a beautiful day out there. I went out this morning and started walking. I only did a 10-minute walk to begin with this morning. And I came back to kind of get prepared. Um, but I'm going to finish my walk later on. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and anybody here for the first time, just go ahead and put it in the chat box if you're here for the very first time. Because if you're here for the first time, when I give you this test, I don't want you to feel bad if you can't answer it. But if you're here for the first time, just say, "This is my first time here." I'm going to give a test. You can guess along with it as you can. We can all guess together, okay? All right. But first, let me go ahead and share my slides and let's get rocking and rolling here. All right. And this is usually the hardest part for me, as I still, no matter how many times I've done this, I've still not become um, I've still not become inclined as far as technology is concerned. All right. So this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to go briefly over a little bit of slides. So life's not just about living longer, is it? It's about living healthier longer. Now let that sink in. Because again, when you get to that age where things start happening. You start getting back pain, you start getting knee pain, and you sort of figure out, well, am I going to live a quality life later on? If somebody has to help me, if I have to have a walker, if I have to need help going up the stairs, if I can't travel anymore because I can't carry my bags. So what we want to do is, yeah, we want to live longer because we want to see our kids, kids, and we want to play with them. But we got to live healthier longer. Otherwise, we just kind of sit on the porch and kind of gradually wave at them. That to me is not life. That's not what I'm shooting for. I hope it's what you're not shooting for either. But in that regard, we have a four-pillar system, and we came up with that system. It's nothing original to me, but it's a system that's been designed by pulling all the science together, not only from the surgical science of what I know from as being a doctor, MD, and a surgeon. What we do as far as taking one portion of the bowel, putting another portion of the bowel, restricting the amount of food you can take in with the bowel, and then combining that with other science entities, such as sports medicine. The greatest amount, one of the greatest amounts of money that are spent in our uh, professional systems of sports. And the greatest scientists that study those things are primarily over in that arena. So going over and dipping into their literature has been pretty cool. And some of us do it, some of us don't. Bariatric surgeons, I mean. And the ones that do it kind of realize you can pull this all together to make one very, very big, loud, blasting statement that we can pretty much tell you you're going to lose the fat, you're going to lose the weight, you're going to become metabolically healthy, because not only is it backed up in our literature, but it's backed up in the sports literature as well. And basically, you pull those two together, you marry those two, and you got something powerful. So, our four pillars, and we're going to repeat this over and over again. It's fasting. That's kind of one of the key pillars. All right. So a lot of times people talk about, okay, fine, yeah, I need to work out. Yeah, I need to get my protein. Yeah, I get my fiber in. But fasting is one of the first things you got to learn how to do, because it does certain things, and we'll get into that later. It does autophagy, cleans out your system, and it burns fat. Two of the most important things that we're here to talk about: cleaning out our system and burning fat, right? You'll understand this more a little bit later, all right? So, four pillars: fasting, fasting. And when I say fasting, I don't mean, okay, fine, your last meal last night is at 8 o'clock, and then the first thing you're going to do this morning is get a breakfast of pancakes or Cheerios at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's only a 12-hour fast. The studies have consistently shown, bar none, that you don't get the effects of fasting by turning on AMPK. I'll tell you what that means in a second. But you don't get those fasting effects until at least 14 hours of fasting. So eating last night at 8 o'clock and then eating first thing in the morning, getting some orange juice, some Cheerios, ain't gonna get it. That's not fasting. And even when you do so 14 hours is minimal to begin fasting. 16 hours is when you're in fasting. 18 hours is better, but that's a little extreme. Okay. Not for us beginners here. Okay. But we can talk about that. So our program is built on 16 hours of fasting. 16, 8. 16 and 8. 16 plus 8 equals 24. That means that 8 hours is the time that we're going to be eating, and we're going to study that. So, four pillars again. Remember this: fasting, fitness, protein. And we're going to be talking about how you take your protein in, because timing is everything. You all heard about it in the past. You even watched it on the news. You've even seen some of the YouTube channels talking about, yeah, it doesn't not only matter what you eat, but it's when you eat. And the data and the literature has come out more and more support of that, but it's not readily spread out there. Especially when you go to your doctors. Your doctors don't really, really sit you down and give you nutritional advice, do they? I do, but some of them do too. I was just kidding. Some of them do too. But the fact of the matter is that to detail how you optimize your health is extremely important, because you can go to the doctor and they can give you a prescription and they can tell you, okay, fine, just go ahead and lose weight, exercise, you'll do great. But giving you the specifics is what this channel is all about. I get this webinar is all about. I don't have a channel. Anyway, and fiber. We underestimate the fiber. I'm going to show you some things that patients bought to me and says, Doc, yep, I'm taking my fiber. I'm doing great. And they bought in some gummies. I'll tell you the problems with that. I'm not shaming anybody, but I want to educate you. The gummies, no bueno. All right. Um, in order to make a gummy, you got to have all sort of processed foods in order to make it sit there on the shelf, right? Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the common fibers that we're talking about, because the fibers that you're thinking about is the spinach, the kale, the asparagus, the salads. I'm getting my fiber, Doc, every day. I eat a salad every day. It's those are good fibers. Don't get me wrong, but those are insoluble fibers. They're meant for a particular purpose in the body, but not the purpose that I'm talking about. We'll get into that. All right. So insulin resistance is where we're going to be going. Insulin resistance is pretty much the root cause of most chronic diseases that we want to avoid. I don't want dementia. I don't want cancer. I don't want high blood pressure, even though I had it. I don't want type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, even though I had it. I don't want obesity and weight regain, even though I had it. Sleep apnea, heart attack, and stroke. Hadn't had that yet, thank God. Some cancers. Insulin resistance is the root cause of all that. So you got to kind of understand insulin resistance. So I reverse engineer it, and then I'll tell you how we all pretty much have it. 80% of the world has it. Look it up. All right. This is me. Like I was saying, this is me when I'm BMI 30, pre-diabetes, atrial fibrillation, I was obese, congestive heart failure, hypertension, 205 pounds. At my height, it gives me a BMI around about 30 at that weight. Okay. Let's see. I was sick. This was years ago, but I was sick. So people always ask me, "Hey, Doc, have you ever been there? You understand the plight that I'm going through?" Yeah, I do. I went through it. Been there, done that. And so this is me, all me. Hey, solid. And this is white fat. This is that inflammatory fat that I'm going to educate you about. I want to turn that white fat, as I have, into brown fat. How do I do that? All right. Now this is me. I'm like Mr. Bodybuilder here. Now I'm trying to suck it in. I'm not doing too great of a job, but I'm trying. I'm trying to suck it in. And basically, this is me today. All right. A few weeks ago, I lost a lot of the white fat, generated some brown fat. We'll distinguish that. And this is me now. And when you see my lips pursing in, that's when I'm sucking it in. I'm sucking it in, trying to hold it in, and I'm doing a good job. Here I am. And that's at 168, 167 pounds, somewhere around there. All right. So before and after, not so flattering here, but yeah, I thought I was okay. It was just occasional thing, but then I began to look at what my life was going to be like because right back then I started noticing some things, some back pain, some other kind of things. I couldn't lift the bags the way I used to be able to lift. I said, this is a process of getting old. It's not. We can slow that aging process down physiologically. Can't slow the clock down, but we can physiologically slow that clock and slow that physiologic process down. I'm going to show you how. 167 is what it was. Sucking it in, sucking it in. All right. All right, this just talks about GLP-1. I won't get too much into that. The new study that came out that not only are you losing muscle mass, now you're losing now you're losing bone mass. That's just like I said before, the GLP-1 drugs that are out there are good drugs that are meant for a good reason. To treat type 2 diabetes at the dose that they treat type 2 diabetes is good. I love them. But when they start increasing the dose and increasing the dose and increasing the dose and making your body addicted to it, making your brain addicted to it, so that you have to stay it on for the rest of your life, and you're losing muscle mass and you're losing bone mass and you're losing other things. Yeah, I kind of caution you about that primarily because we don't have the studies yet to say that taking these drugs lifelong at that dose is safe. And as I have seen more and more people that it hadn't worked that well, they stopped it, they regain weight, and they don't regain muscle mass. They don't regain bone mass, they regain fat. And when you regain fat, you regain that white fat. You increase your inflammation. So you go back into that cycle of pre-diabetes, diabetes, hypertension, sleep apnea, risk of cancers and strokes and things of that nature. So I don't think we're there yet. Maybe in another few years they'll come out with another miracle drug other than the GLP-1s that helps us out. But you'll hear me say it all the time when you come into the office that if you're on GLP-1 drugs, the thing that I do, I use them I use them to get you down to a certain weight. I use them in order to get you off of a plateau, but I use them for a short period of time, and I get you off of it. Okay, because long term, I don't want a bunch of zombies going around with decreased muscle, decreased bone mass. I don't want the world to look like that. All right, that's just that one particular study. Okay, I'm gonna quickly pivot, and then I'm gonna go to the questions. Okay, I'm gonna stop the share on this one. Come back to me. All right, give you an experiment. You know, I always have my water experiment. You always you always see me with my water experiment, and I have the fiber that I want you guys to start taking. And we're going to be talking about fiber. And I'm going to tell you about the difference between soluble and insoluble fibers. This is Metamucil. This is psyllium husk. You commonly hear me talk about that. Psyllium husk is a soluble fiber, and it has certain qualities that we want. So the fibers that I'm telling you to take in, the fibers that I'm preaching to you about, are these types of fibers. They're the soluble fibers that turn into a gel into your stomach, and they do certain things metabolically, i.e., they basically decrease glucose spikes. And decreasing glucose spikes decrease insulin spikes. Decreasing insulin spikes decrease the chances of getting insulin resistance. Okay? So that's what fiber is all about. The salads, the broccoli, the spinach, the kale, the cauliflower, those are all good, but they have a different purpose as far as fiber. They're insoluble fibers. They go clean the colon out, decrease the incidence of colon cancer. So we've got a strong family history. So you want both. Vegetables are good. Vegetables are good. But let me just kind of address a couple of things. Number one, let me just kind of put the recommended dose in the water here. This is the Metamucil. Try this one. It says they put a couple of teaspoons in there. I'll put a couple of teaspoons of Metamucil in there. Okay? Then I got my little handy dandy thing. Hope it don't spill it on everything. But you can see as I stir it up, comes a nice little liquid. You're supposed to drink it right away. But I like to see what this is what it's supposed to do in the stomach. It's supposed to gel up. Okay? That gelling up will cause it to suck in the glucose and suck in the LDL cholesterol. We hadn't talked about that yet, but we will. So you can see here, still liquid, right? Somebody bought this in today. This in. This is, okay, Doc, I'm taking my fiber every day. Okay. So let's do the same experiment with this one. Let's take a cup of, this one actually says 2 teaspoons as well. Boom. And I said, Doc, I'm getting this fiber. So this is good fiber. Benefiber prebiotic fiber supplement. Okay. That word prebiotic is the key of what it's trying to tell you. So I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Here it is. Okay. So this one right here is the Metamucil. It's getting a little thick. Okay. So it's forming a little bit of a gel. Okay. I usually will go ahead and drink it. This is what we have here. The Benefiber. I'm going to let that sit for a second. Now, this is the fiber that we use. This has a combination of glucomannan, pectin fiber, oat bran fiber, all that stuff. And this is flavorful fiber because I kind of like the other fiber over there that I'm going to show you. But this one has a flavor to me, and it has a diversity of different fibers. There's a diversity of different fibers that we're going to kind of see how that does in a second. So you can see the psyllium husk is forming a nice gel. Took a little bit, but it's forming a nice gel. And the granddaddy, the one, is this one here. I'll show you this one after I get it going over here. So this you can get off of Amazon. But this is the psyllium husk you get off of Amazon. Now, as far as absorption is concerned, all right. So let's now compare them. Let's compare. Okay. So here we go. So this one right here is the fiber that we have in the office that tastes a little bit better. I can take that, but if I take it down, it's going to form a gel. Okay. Diverse, diverse fibers. It's very, very good and tasty. This is plain old Metamucil. Metamucil forms a gel. Okay. All right. The one that I just mixed up was this psyllium husk powder. Okay. Now that bad boy, now that's a gel. So that pretty much outdoes all of them. But I just can't take the taste. but but sometimes I'll mix this with the balance because I want the gelness of this because this right there, this is the whole goal of this soluble fiber is to absorb your glucose spikes because glucose spikes leads to insulin spikes. Long-term insulin spikes leads to insulin resistance. So that's the whole goal of this fiber. Salads don't do that. Vegetables don't do that. All right. This is the fiber the young lady brought to me. Now, this is my fiber that I take, she says. That's it. Oops, spilled on my computer. This is not gelling fiber. Okay. So fiber obviously is not the key. And fiber gummies is not the key either. But anyway, I just want to make that demonstration really quick just to kind of tell people, okay, fine, you need the kinds of fibers uh, that's gonna do either this, or this. This is the best, but it just doesn't taste that great. All right. It absorbs the fiber, it absorbs the LDL cholesterol. Very, very cool. All right. Very good. All right. What's the name of the tasty fiber that you have in the office? It's called Balance. We have this Balance. You come into the office, we'll give you a QR code and all that. But it's cool. We have a little tasting test, a tasting table there. Let you taste it. It comes in different flavors. This is berry. It comes in orange. It comes in different flavors. But taking in the fiber has to be done every single day. Before every single meal. You're going to see me as I map out protocols here. Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos, each saying the same thing. One a little bit more of a fasting focus than the other. But to me, we're going to start off at just the 16-hour fast. We may even start some of you off at the 14-hour fast. And we're going to talk about what that means. But remember, 14-hour fast is just beginning to get autophagy. You go to 12-hour fast when you eat at 8 o'clock last night, you eat 8 o'clock this morning. Fasting hadn't even started yet. The autophagy hadn't started yet. The AMPK hadn't even come on yet. And so the problem is when you eat at 8 o'clock and eat at 8 o'clock in the morning, then you're still kind of in that phase where you're not cleaning out your system. So all of these years, well, we've eaten dinner late and breakfast early or something, even when we get up and we break the fast with just a cup of coffee and we put creamer in it, we've broken the fast from sleeping. And we never bring our insulin signal down. That's where insulin resistance comes from. That's where it's always come from. Nobody's ever told you. But we didn't know that getting up in the morning and getting a glass of orange juice was breaking our fast, causing our body to stop cleaning out our system. Just didn't give it enough time. All right. Mm-hmm. Let me go ahead and show you these videos, all right? I'm going to share my slides again. Share mine. That's good. All right, let's see if I can go to I'll get these things numbered for today. The first thing I want to do, well, I thought I did. Let's give you this quiz, okay? So if you don't worry about it, this is just kind of a fun thing that I like to do. This is what we're going to be talking about in the videos, okay? All right, let's go to the previous one. If you know the answer to this, if you've been here before, play along with me. If you don't know the answer, don't sweat it. In the context of the 18-6, 18 hours of fasting, a 6 hour of feeding one, which is the one that's the more aggressive one. If you're really trying to lose a lot of fat, this is the aggressive one. In the context of that means that you eat between 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock as your last meal. Pretty aggressive. The rest of the time you're just drinking juice water and your unamate tea. All right. So which master switch is activated to initiate fat oxidation once insulin is suppressed? Let me see if I can explain that. In the context of fasting, you are lowering your insulin. Insulin only goes up when you're eating something that causes insulin to go up. Goes up a little bit with amino acids, even less with fat, but it goes a pretty good amount with carbohydrates. But once insulin goes up, it stops autophagy. Okay. So which one of these things actually is in the fasting state? You'll find this out. So the answer is going to be right here, right? AMPK. AMPK is your fasting autophagy state. Fasting autophagy state means that you're getting rid of the senescent cells, the old cells, the decrepit cells, the dying cells, because we got to get rid of that, right? Imagine just having something sit in your body forever and ever and ever. If we don't fast, we never get rid of it. And I put that a corollary of imagine not having a bowel movement for a month. Something's going to give, right? And so that's what's happening to our body. So when we eat at 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then we eat first thing, and we get up in the morning with a piece of toast or a bagel or something like that, or a cup of coffee with some Starbucks on it, and we stop that fast before 14 hours, we're daily accumulating junk and bad cells and misfolded proteins in our body, never getting rid of it. And that's what we've been commonly doing. So we got to activate AMPK. AMPK will get us through, get us into that autophagy stage. Next is going to be, I'm going to just say a few of these because I'm going to go right to the video. Why is 10 grams of soluble fiber specifically referred to as a glucose shield in multi-centric medicine? 10 grams of soluble fiber, what I just showed you. It creates a viscous gel that slows glucose absorption and blunts insulin spikes. It speeds up gastric emptying to process nutrients faster. It acts as a broom fiber to physically scrub the intestinal lining. It neutralizes leucine, so the muscle doesn't get overstimulated. Everybody should get that one right, correct? Right? We just did that. The biggest gel of all. Yep, solid fiber slows down the entry of sugar into the bloodstream, preventing the metabolic noise caused by hyperinsulinemia. Cool. All right. Number 3. Uh-oh, got some misprinted stuff. According to the provided framework. So what these questions come from 190 190 references that these get these questions from. Let's see. This is according to the provided framework, what is the leucine threshold required to flip the binary switch? The term binary is just like your light switch. It's either on or it's off. It's not a dimmer switch where you kind of slide it till you get a dim light. It's either on or off. Okay. All right. So binary, just so you know that term. And it's supposed to be approximately 2.5 to 3 grams. What is the leucine threshold required to flip the binary switch? 2.5 to 3 grams, 1 gram to 1.5 gram. It depends entirely on total caloric intake. Exactly 5 grams. I'm sorry about the dollar signs. Nobody knew where that came from. Anybody get that? Everybody's getting this, man. Y'all been here. Right? That's right. This specific concentration of leucine is required to saturate intracellular sensors and initiate the molecular cascade of muscle growth. All right. Get a couple more, then we'll get to the video. And then after you watch the video, you'll watch another video, and then I'm going to give you a little bit more difficult test to see if you really capture the stuff. Because as that person told me, says, Doc, you got to do this over and over again because you hear it one time, and then the second time you hear it, you get something else out of it. And I like that. I like that response because that's exactly right. Because you'll hear a lecture one time and you'll say, oh, okay. But if you hear it back again, you'll get something else out of it. And that is why we're going to put these on there on our website. I hope George did that last time, but we'll have to see if she did it or not. And I'll give you our website too. What occurs during the muscle full refractory period after a successful protein pulse? Let's see. Can you please put in the chat the name from the bag of fiber from Amazon? Yeah, sure can. I will. All right. What occurs during the muscle full refractory period? The muscle becomes unresponsive to additional protein signals for about 3 hours. The mTOR pathway remains permanently activated for 48 hours. Insulin sensitivity increases immediately to clear more glucose. Muscle building continues as long as amino acids remain in the blood. Everybody get that right? Just one person. Psyllium husk powder. I'm just putting the other thing in the husk. Everyone, powder. If you want to get that, that'd be great. All right. Several people said A. Let's see. Is it A? Absolutely. During this refractory state, the building machinery hits a stop switch, and topping up with more protein fails to stimulate further growth. Now, I'm going to show you how significant that is. Because number one, the two things about protein we got to do. We got to get the amount that we need every single day. Because believe it or not, the muscle is one of the last places that protein goes to. We got other places that need muscle, like our immune system. Very, very important. A lot of our protein we take in every day goes to our immune system. That's why people who don't take in enough protein get colds all the time, get all kinds of infections, get a flu. They're sick all the time. They don't get enough protein as a baseline. So you got to get 1.6 just as a baseline, 1.6 grams per kilogram, just to take care of your immune system. Then it goes to your intestinal epithelial lining, the repair of your liver, and as your liver turns over, the uh, the neurotransmitters, the dopamine, all those things come from amino acids, comes from protein. Okay, so you got to have a certain amount just to get that, and then on top of that, you got to have a certain amount that your body needs in order to maintain your muscle mass. Because as you'll learn, muscle mass is expensive to maintain. And if we're not giving it protein and if we're not giving it stimulation, the body says, hey, this muscle is too expensive to keep around. I'm going to shed it. And ladies and gentlemen, that's where that number came from as far as we lose muscle mass as we age, sarcopenia. The studies before says we lose about 1% of muscle mass per year beginning at the age of 30. So imagine after you're 50 years, lost 20% of your muscle mass just by aging. We just thought, okay, yeah, that's just the way it is. That's aging. And the new studies, the new data shows that ain't it. It's because we didn't pay attention. We didn't pay attention to maintaining our muscle mass. We didn't pay attention to keeping our protein levels up, and we didn't pay attention to working out. So no, do you have to lose 1% per year? No. You don't. You can stop it, and it does a lot of other things as well. Okay, let's keep going. I digress here, and I keep getting a soapbox sometimes. Which of the following describes the handshake that initiates the mTOR? Uh, let me go ahead and get you into something a little bit more interesting. These questions are nice, but I'm tired of them. All righty, let's see here. I am going to go back, if I can, get my picture out of the way here. And get this thing out. See, on my screen, I see so many things you guys don't see, and everything is in the way of what I need. Let me go back to this thing. Let me go back to the studio. Let me go back. Refresh it. Talk about the let's see. All right. So let me give you two videos. Let's try this one first. And I'm not sure which one that is, but then we'll try another one, give you the same thing after. So I have to move this thing all the way over to here. And let's see, make sure you're able to hear that.
Welcome to our explainer. Today, we're going to toss out the whole idea of weight loss and step into the world of biological engineering. We're going to stop thinking about health as a journey of restriction and start treating it like a discipline of building. So let's kick things off with a question that reframes everything. Are you just dieting, kind of hoping for the best?
Oh, wait, just make sure. Y'all can hear me, right? Or y'all can hear the video, right? Because one time I played this whole thing because I didn't hear nothing. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. And every now and then, if I feel like it's gotten to a point where it may be a little complicated, I may stop it. Okay. But here we go.
Or are you actively engineering a specific physiological outcome? Trust me, the difference in that mindset is the difference between failure and success. What we're covering today isn't just a collection of tips. It's an actionable blueprint. This is the schematic for taking direct control of your own physiology and literally building a powerful new metabolic engine from the ground up. Okay, let's dive right in. Pillar 1, the fasting signal. You know, any good engineering project has to start with a clean workspace. And for our bodies, that means clearing out all the metabolic noise. So how do we do it? With a super simple 16/8 intermittent fasting protocol. Now, this isn't about starving yourself. It's about sending a crystal clear signal. When you fast, your insulin levels drop right down to baseline. In that low insulin state, it flips a master metabolic switch called AMPK. AMPK basically tells your body, hey, stop storing energy and start burning stored fat. It also kicks off autophagy, your body's internal cleanup crew that gets rid of old, damaged cells and misfolded proteins, making way for the new. And here's why this is so critical. Excess body fat isn't just dead weight. It's an active organ that spews out inflammation, what we call metabolic static. This static is so loud, it just drowns out all the important signals your body needs to hear. Fasting silences that noise. It creates a clean, quiet environment where the signals for repair and growth can finally get through. And that brings us to pillar 2, the glucose shield. Okay, so our system is clear of static. Now we have to make sure our new signals are heard perfectly. To do that, we need to put up a non-negotiable shield. Now listen up, because this is huge. Not all fiber is created equal. The insoluble fiber you get from vegetables, that stuff's great. It's like a broom that sweeps out your digestive tract. But for our purposes, we need a shield. And that shield is soluble fiber. It does something totally different and way more specific. So how do you build this shield? It's simple. You take about 10 grams of specific soluble fibers, like psyllium husk or glucomannan, before your meal. This fiber soaks up water and forms a thick, gooey gel in your stomach. And that gel is the secret to creating cellular clarity. And this right here explains everything. That gel dramatically slows down digestion, which completely flattens the glucose spike you normally get after eating. No big glucose spike means no big insulin spike. And why does that matter? Well, think about it. Constant insulin spikes are like shouting at your muscle cells all day long. Eventually, they just go deaf. And that, my friends, is insulin resistance. The fiber shield keeps the volume down so your muscle cells can actually hear the protein signal we're about to send them. And that brings us to the absolute core of our build, pillar 3, the leucine trigger. We've cleared the noise, we've put up the shield. Now it's time to install the actual engine for muscle growth. This is probably one of the most misunderstood concepts in all of physiology. Building muscle is not a dimmer switch that you slowly turn up by eating protein all day. It is a binary on or off switch. You either flip it or you don't. And you know what? Grazing on little bits of protein all day long, that leaves the switch firmly in the off position. So what flips the switch? It's a very precise signal. You have to hit a threshold of about 2.5 to 3 grams of a single amino acid, leucine, all in one sitting. You'll typically find this in about 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein. If you don't hit that number, the switch doesn't flip, period. Hitting that leucine threshold activates the master growth pathway in your body, known as mTOR. The easiest way to think about mTOR is as the general contractor on a construction site. Once leucine gives it the green light, mTOR starts yelling at the construction crews to grab all the available amino acids and start building new muscle tissue. But, and this is a huge but, this construction site has some really strict rules. Once you flip that mTOR switch, muscle protein synthesis triples and runs at full blast, but only for about 3 hours. Then a biological stop switch gets hit and the whole operation just shuts down. And this is the part that blows people's minds. During that 3-hour window, the muscle becomes refractory, or what we call full. It is completely deaf to any new protein signals. The research on this is clear. Trying to top up with more protein during this period does absolutely nothing. The machinery is locked. Any extra protein is just wasted. You have to wait for the system to reset. So let's move on to our final pillar, the survival mandate. We've just installed this incredible metabolically active engine. The problem is muscle is really expensive for the body to maintain. It's a luxury tissue. So now we have to convince our own biology to actually keep it around. We justify the engine with progressive resistance training. It's that simple. By lifting to near failure a couple of times a week, we send an undeniable survival signal. We're screaming at our biology, hey, I need this tissue to survive these challenges. And that powerful signal overrides the body's natural instinct to get rid of that expensive metabolic machinery. But here's the amazing part. When you contract a muscle, it does more than just get stronger. It actually becomes an endocrine organ. Yeah, you heard me right. It starts pumping out these powerful signaling molecules called myokines directly into your bloodstream. They're like text messages from your muscles to the rest of your body. And these signals are incredible. For instance, one myokine called irisin helps convert that nasty inflammatory white fat into healthy metabolically active brown fat. Another one, BDNF, actually supports the growth of new brain cells. See, this isn't just about bigger biceps. This is a total system-wide upgrade. And we can even optimize this new engine with a really simple respiratory hack. Next time you're doing some moderate zone 2 exercise, like a brisk walk, make one tiny change. Breathe only through your nose. Why? Well, your paranasal sinuses produce nitric oxide, a potent little molecule that opens up your blood vessels. So breathing through your nose delivers this nitric oxide straight to your lungs, which immediately improves blood flow. But it also stops you from blowing off too much CO2. And that's the key, because higher CO2 levels in your blood triggers something called the Bohr effect. It's a cool physiological principle that basically tells your red blood cells to let go of oxygen more easily. So more oxygen gets delivered to your working mitochondria. The result? You literally skyrocket your fat burning capacity. Okay, so we've covered all 4 pillars. How does this all fit together in the real world? Let's assemble everything into the definitive daily blueprint for building your new metabolic engine. Here it is. It starts with a fasted nasal breathing walk to maximize that fat oxidation. At noon, you take your soluble fiber shield, then hit your first protein pulse. A fast absorbing whey shake is great for this, to ignite mTOR. Then at 3 p.m., right when that refractory period ends, the machinery has reset and you hit it again with a second pulse. At 6 p.m., another shield, another pulse with your dinner. And finally, a slow release casein protein around 9 p.m. This acts like a protective bridge, preventing breakdown and supplying building blocks for overnight repair. You see, this isn't grazing. This is precise strategic pulsing to engineer 4 distinct growth events in a single day. So there you have it. This isn't a diet. It's a discipline. It's a set of engineering principles that work with your own biology. The question is no longer what to do, but how precisely you will execute the plan. Now that you have the blueprint, what will you build?
All right. So that was that one. And I think that what I need to do now is just kind of pivot back to some of those points. And let me just kind of do that with the slides here for a second. Let me see if I can explain some of the points that it made with the slides. And again, I got these little things in the way that I can't even see my slides. So we're talking about the four pillars of metabolic health. Let me turn my camera on. Just remember these things. It's fasting. And even when you've seen The Biggest Loser, or when you find any program includes that's going to be successful long term, has to have consistent fasting. You can't eat all the time. You just can't. Because you got to have time enough for your body to empty the bad stuff, the the folded proteins, the misfolded proteins, the to be honest with you, dementia, for instance, dementia leading to Alzheimer's disease. Remember those amyloid plaques that everybody talks about? Maybe you don't never heard of it, but Alzheimer's, when they do autopsies on people with Alzheimer's, they almost always find these little plaques in the brain called amyloid. Amyloid is just a misfolded protein that's got into the brain. And it's a result of our body just not getting rid of stuff every day. All right. So there's good data, and you can look this up. There's good data to suggest that dementia, early dementia, and even Alzheimer's disease is directly related to the fact that we're eating all the time, that we're insulin resistance, leading to dementia, and that's a problem. So if we could just kind of decrease that by developing a daily program of fasting, wouldn't that be great? And that's just not the only thing that it does, but that's one. So fasting is number one. Fiber is number two. So fiber, I'm telling you to take the soluble fiber. You can take your salads in, you can take your kale, your broccoli, your asparagus, your spinach. That's all good. But that's just for your colon. The one you want for us is going to be to improve your metabolic health. And I don't care uh, if you're a marathon runner or whatever, you need to have fiber in your diet because it's also preventive as well. So I usually would recommend the fiber, the soluble fiber, before each meal. Okay. And so I start my day off with a whey protein shake at 12 o'clock. Not there yet, but 12 o'clock, I'm going to start off with a whey protein shake. And sometimes I'll have a boiled egg along with it, but the boiled egg is not going to contribute. It just says, okay, fine, I'm feeling a little hungry. I want something a little solid in my mouth. I'll have the boiled egg. Somebody asked a question in the chat. What about the bypass patients? We can't take all that in. Yeah, you can. Because what I'm going to tell you is that when I call them full protein pulses, and yeah, should you take it with food? Yeah, maybe, but not necessarily. The thing that actually goes down easier is the shake. So sometimes I eat one meal a day, and that's at dinner time. And I'll have some salmon or some chicken, and that gives me my 40 grams of protein and my 2.5 grams of leucine. But the other times of the day, I didn't miss my protein pulses. I filled them in with shakes. So you can combine shakes and meals depending upon how you feel. The key is be consistent and put it on a schedule. All right. So 12 o'clock comes around, my little thing goes off. 3 o'clock goes around, my little watch goes off. 6 o'clock comes around, it goes off. 9 o'clock, it goes off. And I am never hungry during the time that it goes off. And it's kind of a struggle to get up and say, okay, fine, I got to go put something in the oven. I got to put some tuna fillet in the oven. And if I don't have that, then I gotta pivot. I got to take a whey protein shake. So during the day, I have whey protein shakes at the office, and I have them here at home. And unfortunately, the fiber, the protein that I don't know, I hadn't explored it yet, but carrying around whey protein shake. This is the whey protein shake that I use. Nothing special about this. It's just grass-fed whey protein isolate. 30, what does it say? 30 grams, 30 grams of serving. So I need 40 grams at my age. So I need 40 grams. So I take a scoop and a half. Okay. So I'll take this and and if I feel like I'm going to get busy at the office, I'll just put some in a little, that little clear sack. What is that thing called? Ziploc bag. I'll just put some enough to get my two sessions in while I'm at the office. All right. But sometimes I'll go ahead and have a little bit of chicken that somebody will bring, or a pork chop, or some tempeh, or some tofu. I'll eat that, and then I'll skip a shake. But I'm not giving you any real rigid rules as you got to eat this food, you got to eat this food, but you got to have that pulse. It's got to be either food or shake. And if you're a gastric bypass patient or a sleeve patient, and you just can't take in that much food and you can only eat one meal a day, so be it. But just take your shakes before that. Okay. 12 o'clock shake, whey protein shake, 3 o'clock shake, and then 6 o'clock you eat dinner. But at before you go to bed, it's something special. Anyway, we talked about the four pillars: protein and fitness. All right. So we already talked about that. Keep going. All right. The old weight loss model was passive deprivation, just calories in versus calories out. Calorie cutting. When you start cutting calories, one of the things that we didn't realize is that we thought we were only losing fat. But the body says you're basically cutting calories. You're not losing a whole lot of, you're not using that muscle. If you're not using that muscle, if you're not cutting calories and using resistance training, which is what happened with the Biggest Loser, they were cutting calories and basically working out, doing extensive workout. Man, you talk about burning out of the body. So they had very little energy other than their fat, which is a good source of calories, but it's something that the muscles don't like to use, but they will use it. Okay. But it's kind of inefficient. The bottom line is that they had to do that where their muscles weren't getting their preferred fuel source. It wasn't getting glucose. So it was burning fat, and that was how they were doing. And so it made them tire out. And basically when they went through that cycle and stopped it, they regained all the fat, as you all know. The new model is active intervention, precision cellular signaling. And I want to make sure y'all get that particular term right, because these cells talk to each other. These muscles produce myokines, and they talk to your brain. They talk to your liver. They talk to your white fat. They talk to your lungs. Okay. So that's the new way of sort of thinking. This is the more radical one, the 18 to 6. That means that you stop eating at 6 p.m. and you start eating again at 12 the next day. That's a little bit more radical. We do a 16 and 8. The insulin baseline, your hormone flattens, your insulin goes down. That starts autophagy. That turns on AMPK. When the insulin hits rock bottom, you turn on AMPK and it starts to burn fat, because your needs AMPK going down says, okay, fine, I don't have any energy. I need to burn the fat. And even more importantly, I need to unload the junk in my body. That's called, and fat oxidation is what we got here. So this is required metabolic reset. Depriving the cell of external energy requires AMPK, forcing the body to clean house and initiate fat oxidation. Okay. Eradicating metabolic noise. This is a little complicated slide, maybe for my medical student to go to the next one. The glucose shield, we just talked about that. Basically, the hyperinsulinemic spike begins with taking in glucose spikes. The glucose spike only lasts about an hour, but the insulin level lasts a longer period of time than that. So we don't want the spike. We want a gentle curve. So we want something that gives us that gentle curve. And what does that? That fiber that we got here. And this is finally to the point. So, but this is like concrete now. So anyway, I get a kick out of doing that. But anyway, the shielded meal, the hyperinsulin spike. This is what we don't want because we can do this all day. When you put any sort of creamer in your coffee, when you take that orange juice, when you take that bagel, when you take that pancake in the morning, then you take that bread with the sandwich in the afternoon, you're just giving yourself glucose spikes all day long. But I'm not going to tell you to stop that altogether. I'm going to tell you to stop the Cheerios and and the bagels and all that. But I'm going to tell you to take your fiber so that this will absorb that glucose spike that you're going to empirically get from that fiber. I mean, from that bread, from that mashed potato, from that macaroni and cheese, from that pasta. You're going to get a glucose spike. You don't want it up here. You want it down here. Taking in that 10 grams of soluble fiber, this fiber here, not not the benefiber. The bitter fiber is good because it's a prebiotic. It has inulin and acacia, even though it doesn't say that. I'm assuming that it does. And it feeds the microbiome. So does it have a function? Yes, but it's not the function that we want you to do. Okay? So bitter fiber, sorry about that. Didn't mean to burst anybody's bubble, but not what we want right now. The shield is going to be the psyllium husk, the glucomannan, and basically all those things are in here. The old bran and locust bean gum. But like I said, the psyllium husk in and of itself, just by that, is just in here. It absorbs water, forms viscous gel, delays glucose absorption, completely blunts insulin spikes, which is our goal. Getting rid of insulin resistance, which is the core of all chronic diseases, starts with decreasing the insulin spikes, starts with decreasing glucose spikes. Just remember that. That's it. So, non-negotiable pre-meal intervention, period. Okay? But not the broccoli, not the spinach, not the cauliflower, not the broom. You can have that along with you if your stomach can tolerate it and you can take it and you've had a gastric bypass, but it's not that's just going to sweep your colon, make your colon nice and healthy. It adds physical bulk to stool, accelerates gut motility, mechanical gastrointestinal cleaning. Valuable for health, but does not flatten the glucose curve. Okay? All right. The leucine trigger, we've already talked about that. It takes leucine, and leucine threshold has to be between 2.5 to 3 grams. The handshake is here. Okay, so I thought I was going to have enough sound for another video, but I'm not. And then it starts mTOR. Okay. And this is the part that's so important. This is the reason the protein pulse is in. There's some people who eat one meal a day, and that's it. They'll take all their protein, and it won't be 100 grams. But you see, when I eat 40 grams of protein every single day, every 3 hours, 4 times, 40 is 160. I'm empirically every single day getting 160 grams of protein. That's what my body requires. Some of y'all's bodies require that same amount. And I'd be willing to bet people who hadn't been on here before, the chances are that you're probably getting less than 100 grams of protein. Everybody on here needs at least 100 grams of protein just for their liver repair, just for their brain repair, just for their immune system, just to cut down on all the infections that people are getting in the winter. Everybody on here needs at least 100 grams, right? So the 160 grams, that's just pure mathematics. If you were to take in 30 grams of protein with it every single time with 4 pulses, that's 120 grams. So the minimum amount that you're just going to get is 120 grams. But if you wanted to eat food, anything that fits in the palm of your hand, like a pork chop or a piece of salmon, fishing, that will give you the 30 to 40 grams of protein as well as the 2.5 grams of leucine. So just take a meat or a plant product, that tofu that fits into the plant products. You have to have more, and that's the struggle that I have with vegans and the gastric bypass of the sleeve, because I've restricted your stomach. But in order to get the proper protein pulse, you got to eat more of that tofu or tempeh or that pea protein powder. You got to take a lot more of that to get the same effect. And so we're caught in the caught between a rock and a hard place. But we work through it. We get through it. So anyway, your muscle full effect is for 3 hours. After that 3 hours, you got another window. All right. And that's why the regimen was developed. Okay. And this just talks about the unlocking mechanism. And we got the 12, 3, 6, 9 pulse architecture. So pulse one, and then you got the 3 hour refractory. So that means that if you just take 40 grams here, and then you decide to take another pork chop or some more protein here because you're thinking that it's a good idea, more is better. It's not. It's not. It won't be wasted. It'll go to your hair, or to your liver, or to your immune system. It won't be wasted unless you've gotten in your total daily amount. Then any extra that you're taking after that is just being burned as energy. So you're not burning fat. And our goal is to burn fat, right? All right. All right, here we go. That. And so I think that's the respiratory hack. That was a cool idea, right? Walking and even resistance training with your mouth closed. You got that nitric oxide, and your mouth is closed. So you're maintaining your blood levels of CO2. Well, CO2 and oxygen occupy the red blood cell, but they can't occupy that same space at the same time. So if you're maintaining increased amounts of CO2 in your system on your red blood cells, it says, oxygen, you got to get out of here. You got to go somewhere. And that's a cool thing because you're pushing oxygen into your cells. You're pushing oxygen into your lungs, into your muscle, into your brain. So exercising with your nose and your mouth closed is a cool hack that you probably didn't learn about until you came here. The Bohr effect. This is what I was just talking about. CO2 and oxygen don't occupy the red blood cell at the same time. So you increase your concentration of CO2 and it blows off the oxygen. That oxygen is delivered to your mitochondria, to your muscle cells, to your brain, and all that. And over a period of time, it takes time. Everything takes time. Over a period of time, your endurance, your longevity, everything will increase. Your VO2 max, which is associated with health span, will increase. All right. The daily blueprint. Somebody asked me about the daily. So there's a 12 pulse. That's going to be your whey protein shake. Everybody starts with whey protein shake at 12 o'clock. 3 o'clock, you can have food if you're hungry. If you're not hungry, you take another whey protein shake. 6 o'clock, again, if you're hungry, if you get busy, you can't take in a pork chop or chicken or some pea protein, or you can't take that in, then go ahead and take another whey protein shake. But at 9 o'clock, when you get ready to go to bed, we're gonna if we're sleeping 8 hours, we're missing two opportunities, 2 3 hour opportunities. So we want a slower releasing protein. We want a casein protein. And casein, if you want to just have the protein, this is a nice chocolate casein. Yeah. All right. So casein protein. But if you do like me, you don't want to have this, you want to have a kind of little dessert, I take cottage cheese or some Greek yogurt and I add a little bit of this to it. But I take cottage cheese, I put some walnuts in it, I put some strawberries in it or some blackberries in it, and it tastes just like a good dessert. But that's going to release that leucine throughout the night. And so it gives your body, because when you're in that non-REM sleep, that's when your growth hormone peaks. And if your growth hormone is peaking an hour or two after you go to sleep, and you're in that zone 3 sleep, basically that growth hormone doesn't have any amino acids to act upon. It's going to kind of break down your muscle. All right. So you want something to keep your muscle from breaking down. All righty. So you're the engine of your own metabolic destiny to control the signals. Oh, okay, that was that. All righty. Okay. So we got time for the final quiz. Let's do the final quiz. Any questions in the meantime? Let's see. Yeah, a lot of questions. Getting the protein in takes practice for me, Doc. Give me a key with protein pulse. Keep boiled eggs on deck and two. There you go. Did you say walnuts? Yes. Good old walnuts. Omega-3s. We can't see you, can't see your screen. I get this all the time. Somebody can't see my, can everybody see me okay? Uh, okay. So people can see me. So I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, have let's see, 8 questions here. There's a little bit more difficult questions, but you should have learned from the presentation on the slideshow. I have another video presentation if we have time, but I don't think we do. It's only 7 minutes, but we'll see. Answer these questions for me. In the muscle-centric framework, which is what we just presented, why is the activation of AMPK considered a metabolic reset during fasting? Oops, looks like I answered that question. Some of these answers, if I look at it and I get the answer, that means I've already looked at it. So this doesn't count. It shifts the body toward fat oxidation and autophagy. That's very cool. That's very key. You don't know how important that is. That is why fasting is that primary principle. Calories in, calories out, all these things that you're seeing on YouTube doesn't matter as much as fasting does. Fasting clears your body and gets it prepared for all the other things you're getting ready to do. Okay. All right. Make sure we kind of keep that in mind. I think I answered all these questions. These are, hold on a second. This may not be the right one. Yeah, this is not the right one because I've answered. Let me just go to the right quiz. Let me ask y'all a question. Would y'all rather see the second video or would you rather just take this final quiz? Let's say final quiz. Let's see. 2, 3, 4. Final quiz, the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, these have all been answered. Well, let's just kind of go over them anyway, because I think that they're important. Oh, everybody wants to see the second video. Well, let's try that second video. Let's see. Let's call it a backup video, just in case the first one didn't work. Backup. Number 2, backup. Explain the video. Let's see. So this is the experiment that I wanted to try with you guys to see if saying the same thing with a different way would make a difference. I hope this is the one. Backup.
All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are not talking about another diet. Forget that. Think of this as a masterclass in biological engineering. We're going to treat your body not as some kind of mystery, but as a system that you can understand, you can control, and you can absolutely optimize with precision. Okay, so let's just start with this question because it really changes everything. A journey is something that kind of happens to you, right? It's passive. But engineering, that's active. That's something you do. It's about shifting from just hoping you get results to literally programming them right into your own biology. So let's begin. So before we can start building anything, we have to understand the one problem we're trying to solve. And that problem is something we'll call metabolic noise. Just think of it like this. Your body is always sending out signals. Burn fat, build muscle, repair this tissue. But when your system is just flooded with the biological static of inflammation and insulin resistance, well, those critical commands, they just get lost. Your cells, they basically go deaf. Our entire goal here is to silence that noise so the right signals can finally get through loud and clear. So here's our game plan. We're going to cover 4 foundational pillars. First, the metabolic reset. That's to silence the noise that's already there. Second, the glucose shield to block any new interference from coming in. Third, the anabolic switch to send a crystal clear signal for growth. And fourth, the survival signal, which makes sure those gains are permanent. And then we'll put it all together into a single actionable daily blueprint. Okay, first things first. We have to perform a system-wide reset. Now, this isn't about cutting calories, not at all. This is a precise hormonal intervention, and it's designed to completely reboot your metabolic environment using our first tool, fasting. The protocol is super specific, an 18-hour fast followed by a 6-hour feeding window. And let's be really clear, this is not an arbitrary number. This timing is specifically engineered to manipulate your hormones and to create a very, very specific biological cascade of events. So let's look at what's actually happening under the hood. For 18 hours, by not eating, you are forcing your insulin levels to hit rock bottom. And that drop flips a master metabolic switch in your body called AMPK. Think of AMPK as your body's main energy sensor. When it gets activated, it does two absolutely critical things. It commands your body to start burning its own stored fat for fuel, and it kicks off a process called autophagy, which is basically a deep cellular cleaning process that gets rid of junk proteins and damaged cells. This is how we actively silence that metabolic noise, right at the cellular level. Okay, so now that we've created this quiet, clean cellular environment, we have to protect it. And that brings us to our second pillar. We need to install a shield to block any incoming metabolic noise from the food we're about to eat. Now, not all fiber is created equal for this job. We need a very specific tool, and that is soluble fiber. We're talking about things like psyllium husk, glucomannan, or the fiber in oats. This type of fiber mixes with water in your gut and forms a thick gel. And that is our shield. It's completely different from the insoluble fiber you get in, say, broccoli or a salad. That stuff acts more like a broom, kind of sweeping out your digestive tract. Both are good for sure, but only the shield can protect you from a glucose spike. Just look at this graph. It tells the whole story. This is what happens to your blood sugar after a meal. Without that fiber shield, you get this huge, sharp spike in blood glucose, and that forces a massive insulin spike to deal with it. That's the very metabolic noise that over time makes your muscle cells resistant or deaf. Look what happens when you take just 10 grams of soluble fiber before that exact same meal. The response is blunted. It becomes a gentle, rolling hill instead of a sharp mountain. We've shielded our system, and that keeps ourselves sensitive and ready for the next command. All right, this is where it gets really good. With the noise silenced and the shield up, we are finally ready to send a signal. This is the absolute core of the entire protocol. How we send a powerful, clear, and undeniable command to the body to build that precious, metabolically active muscle. You have to get this concept because it's the most important one. You don't kind of build muscle. You don't just slowly turn up a dimmer switch by snacking on protein here and there. It's a binary or nothing event. The switch is either completely on or it's completely off. And our job as biological engineers is to learn how to flip that switch on command. So how do we flip that switch? Well, the ignition key is a specific amino acid called leucine. You have to hit a certain threshold, about 2.5 to 3 grams of leucine in a single sitting. If you get 2.4 grams, guess what? Nothing happens. The switch stays off. The engine doesn't start. To reliably hit that number, you generally need to get about 30 to 40 grams of a high-quality protein. This is the non-negotiable trigger for the mTOR pathway, which is the master regulator for growth in your body. Now, let's look at what happens after you flip the switch. The muscle building process, it kicks into high gear, but it only runs for about 3 hours. After that, a biological stop switch gets hit. The muscle is now full, and it enters what's called a refractory period. That means the machinery is temporarily unresponsive to any more protein. It literally doesn't matter if you eat more protein during this window. The system is busy and it cannot accept a new commands until it's had time to reset itself. So that 3-hour refractory period, that dictates our entire strategy. See, we can't just graze on protein all day and hope for the best. We have to be strategic. We hit that leucine threshold. We let the 3-hour muscle building window run its course. We wait for the machinery to reset, and then we hit it again. This simple biological fact allows us to trigger 4 separate powerful muscle building events in a single day. At 12 noon, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., and finally at 9 p.m. Okay, so we've silenced the noise, we've shielded the system, and we've sent the signal to build. But there's one more piece. We have to lock in those gains. We have to give the body a really compelling reason to actually follow our commands, and more importantly, to keep the new metabolically active tissue it built. So here's the deal. Muscle is metabolically expensive. Your body actually sees it as a luxury, and to be more efficient, it would rather get rid of it. But what your body also knows is that muscle is a powerful endocrine organ. It produces these amazing compounds called myokines, which do things like improve fat breakdown, reduce inflammation, and even promote brain cell growth. So by lifting weights to near failure a few times a week, we send an urgent, undeniable survival signal, a signal that says, hey, I need this powerful organ to survive. This mechanical command forces the body not only to build the muscle, but to keep it around. And we can even engineer our cardio with this really cool physiological hack. When you do lower intensity cardio breathing only through your nose, you actually pull something called nitric oxide from your sinuses down into your lungs. This is a potent vasodilator, meaning it widens your blood vessels. At the same time, it helps maintain a better CO2 balance in your blood. This is known as the Bohr effect, and all it means is that your red blood cells can deliver oxygen to your mitochondria, your cellular power plants, way more efficiently. The result? You can dramatically improve your VO2 max and your fat burning ability. Okay, we have covered all 4 pillars. We've laid out the science. Now let's assemble all the pieces into the final blueprint, a simple 24-hour schedule for engineering your own biology. Here's what it looks like when it all comes together. At 7 a.m., you take a fasted walk, breathing only through your nose to send that nitric oxide signal and ramp up fat burning. At 12 p.m., you break your fast with your first protein pulse, say a whey protein shake to ignite mTOR. 3 hours later, at 3 p.m., the system is reset, so you hit it again. Another pulse at 6 p.m. with your dinner. And finally, at 9 p.m., you have a slow digesting casein protein. This acts as a bridge, feeding your muscles a slow, steady stream of amino acids overnight to prevent breakdown while you sleep and take advantage of growth hormone release. You see, every single action is timed for a specific physiological reason. So just remember this. Your health isn't something that just happens to you. It is a system of signals and responses. And now you have the blueprint. You've got the tools. You understand the signals. You are no longer just a passenger along for the ride. You are the engineer. So the only question left is, what system will you build?
All righty. Let's see. I'm going to stop that share. I think I kept you guys long enough. Now I want you to kind of get out there and start using these principles to improve your health. Every week I'm going to give you something new because I have to kind of give you these little things in chunks. I can't overwhelm you with all the stuff that I know. Well, I want to give you information that you just won't get going to your doctor and getting prescriptions. So yeah, next week I have a nice little surprise. So I hope to see you all back next week. But if you learned anything new today, just tell me in the chat box that you learned something new, and tell me what that is. But again, that particular video was a little bit more aggressive. That had an 18-hour fast. Like I said, you got to have more than 14 hours, but 16 hours is that sweet spot, meaning that you stop eating around about 8 o'clock at night and then don't start again until 12 noon. And see, right now, I stopped eating. I had my cottage cheese last night at 9 o'clock. And so I am not hungry. And so I can last until noon without any problem at all. Okay? All right. All right. Taking fiber more than one time a day? Yes. 4 times a day. Okay? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I really, really appreciate it. I enjoy this. And this will all be available hopefully on the website. I'll kind of let you guys know, but we'll see. Okay. All right. Thank you all, and talk to you tomorrow. Not tomorrow, next week.